So I would like to welcome you to the June, getting ahead of myself, the June 2025 Dibble Institute webinar. We are pleased to have Julie Craig with us today. And as you can see on the screen, the topic is Mind Matters and Intervention for Substance Use and Misuse Prevention. Just some quick housekeeping items. So in terms of technical questions, sometimes people cannot hear this presentation. If so, I don't know how you're going to be able to listen to me, but that's the reason why we put it up on the screen. So please go ahead and just log out of the webinar and then choose the option of attending by your telephone, and that usually fixes most of the audio problems. And then you'll also find a question box. So as you're going through as we're going through the webinar today, if you have any questions, go ahead and pop those into the question box. And then you'll also notice that we do have a couple of handouts, and so you can also find that in your toolbox as well. Just a quick little thing about Charlie and Helen Dibble. A lot of people are wondering, so why is it called the Dibble Institute? And it is because our founders are Charlie and Helen Dibble. And Charlie has an absolutely amazing story that we have a lot of detail about on the website, and so I'd highly encourage you to go ahead and log on to the website and learn a little bit more about Charlie. So the Dibble Institute, we are a national independent nonprofit organization. We have clients, thanks to you all, in all 50 states and around the world. And conservatively speaking, because of you, we're able to help serve well over 100,000 young people each year. And I'm also excited to say that we're entering our 4th decade. So we're actually in our 4th decade of being a nonprofit. Our mission is empowering youth and young adults with skills to build and sustain healthy interpersonal and romantic relationships. And so I was talking with Julie a little bit earlier about ikigai. It's this Japanese concept of what makes it so that you get excited to wake up and get out of bed each morning. And this is part of my ikigai. We also very much believe in the research, and when it comes to research, it's constantly evolving, and so we try to stay on top of the field and make sure that we're able to get you the latest research, because it's always nice to use evidence-based programs and models so that we know that we can be confident that the work that we're doing has the greatest impact on young people. We also believe in stable, safe, and nurturing families. And we believe that relationship education is for absolutely everyone. So without further ado, I'm going to now turn the time over to Julie, and looking forward to what you have to say. And I'm going to take myself off camera, but I'm still here, so I'll be the one in the background answering my questions.
Thank you. So good afternoon. I'm Julie Craig with Arizona Youth Partnership. I'm coming to you from Globe, Arizona. Today I want to talk with everyone about our diversion program and how utilizing Dibble's curriculum Mind Matters really helped us to make it a success. If we can go to the next slide. So our objectives today is we're going to focus on these 3 items: the importance of school attachment, how Dibble's Mind Matters program has positive effects on students, and how to approach schools to discuss diversion as opposed to suspension. Go to the next one. So here we wanted to offer our schools the option to place their youth into our diversion classes instead of suspending them from school. The 3 main reasons for our youth being suspended from school were that they were fighting, they've been vaping in class or on school campuses, and truancy, not coming to school. Truancy was actually one of the biggest issues for most of our schools this year. And if you think about placing a student on out of school suspension is actually kind of counterproductive to the issue of truancy. We want them to be in school. It can also make problems worse for those, especially if it's vaping or something along those lines. Now they've got extra time on their hands to stay at home, to vape, to possibly get into some other things they shouldn't be into, as most of the time these youth are not supervised if they're at home during the week. And they can also continue to vape and other things without any support to quit. So out of school suspension also puts the youth farther behind in their schoolwork. It keeps them from their social support network that they have at school and can further stigmatize them as bad kids and create problems, actually more problems for them. So school attendance is actually an early indicator of whether a student's on track to graduate. So punishing students by forcing them to miss more classes can actually harm their chances of graduating on time or moving on to the next grade. Go ahead. Some of the reasons our kids are getting into trouble relate to these risk factors. Now, there's many other risk factors out there, but today we're going to just focus on these. So neighborhood attachment is a community risk factor. And actually here in Arizona, 45.8% of Arizona youth report that they're not attached to their neighborhood. And then we have some family risk factors, and that would be family conflict. 41.9% of Arizona kids report that they're experiencing conflict at home. And then school and that commitment to school, we're really going to talk about how important that is. But 64% of Arizona kids are reporting that they're not committed to their school. And then lastly, there's some peer and individual ones. So 38.8% of Arizona kids say that they receive rewards for antisocial behavior, and 39.8% of them have favorable attitudes towards antisocial behavior. So you can see where suspending youth can actually create more family conflict for them. And for some, again, it may seem like that reward for bad behavior, like, oh, you don't have to go to school, you can stay home for, 3-5 days, whatever it might be. So go ahead. So school attachment is extremely important for our youth. It can be a very important protective factor for them. So the school attachment, or actually feeling connected and cared for by educators, by their peers, is really crucial for a student's academic and emotional well-being. It fosters a sense of security. It allows students to engage more fully with learning, and helps them to develop those necessary social skills that we need. Securely attached students are more likely to thrive academically. They'll develop better resistance and resilience skills, and they're going to build positive relationships with caring adults and other peers. So some of the things that are really important is having good school attachment is going to help you increase your resilience. Resilience is a sense of belonging and support at school, and it helps students develop this resilience in the face of any adversity that they might come across. They're better able to bounce back from challenges and setbacks, knowing that they have a safe and supportive environment that they can turn to, someplace safe that they can go to. It helps with their positive self-concept and identity. Feeling valued and connected to school community contributes to a student's positive self-concept and their sense of identity. This can lead to them having greater confidence, having more self-esteem, and having more of a positive outlook on their own abilities and their own potential. It also helps with improved mental health. School attachment can actually buffer those effects of stress and trauma. It provides a safe and supportive environment for students where they can process some of those difficult emotions that they might be experiencing. It can also help students to develop healthy coping mechanisms and reduce the risk of mental health problems. Another thing that school attachment can help with is it can improve social emotional development. So strong attachments like those to school, to our teachers, to our positive peers, provide a foundation for developing healthy relationships and developing social skills. Students that feel connected to their school are better equipped to handle challenges, they build resilience, and they can better navigate the social situations that they come across. And then the last one is it helps enhance academic performance. So securely attached students are better able to focus, to concentrate, and to thrive in a learning environment. They're more likely to engage with learning opportunities and feel confident in the abilities that they're learning, especially because there's teachers and other folks there to kind of cheer them on and let them know when they're doing really well. So if we want to go to the next one. So our diversion program consisted of providing Dibble's Mind Matters program. Many of the youth that we came across were experiencing stress and prior trauma. And this can cause bullying and fighting, which really kind of leads to students feeling unsafe at school, which is one of the main reasons kids were saying they were not going to schools, because they didn't feel safe. They were concerned about being bullied or someone harming them. These behaviors can be due to the fact that many youth are not able to regulate their emotional responses when they're facing challenges with their schoolwork or challenges with their teachers, or even with their friends and other youth at school. So they're just responding out of emotion instead of recognizing what that emotion is and then pausing, dealing with that, and then making a healthy decision. Mind Matters participants learn skills and strategies that they can use to take charge of themselves and their responses to what life throws at them. So they really get to learn more about themselves and how to handle different situations. They learn to address their physical, relational, and mental health needs. And Mind Matters teaches youth proven ways to deal with those stressful life experiences that they come across being a teenager, using innovative methods that are based on current research and neuroscience. Go ahead. So childhood trauma and toxic stress is not easy to overcome. Each lesson in Mind Matters is based on adverse childhood experience science and includes hands-on activities and skills that youth can begin to use immediately. And being able to provide them with an activity or a tool to self-soothe or to cope right then and there, they get to practice it, so they're kind of gaining that muscle memory a little bit, so that when they're in a situation that they need it, it just is automatically going to happen to them. It's going to become second nature. The skills that youth learn will cultivate healing with them, and also help to remove some of those distractions that are in their way of meeting success. The lessons address these topics. It's self-soothing and regulating emotions, really cultivating a mindfulness practice, developing or managing stress effectively, learning to reduce those intrusive thoughts, those things that just kind of pop into our head that can kind of take us off key or off our focus. It talks about developing empathy, improving interpersonal communications, but thinking about others, not just always focusing on ourselves, which is teenagers. That's kind of right where they're at. It focuses on creating a code of honor, developing a life of intention, setting goals so that they have a future to look forward to, and then building and using a support system, learning how to ask for help. And for a lot of youth and adults as well, it can be hard to reach out and ask for help, but letting them know that it's okay to do that and it's actually really helpful is a really positive event. And if you think about all of these lessons, definitely relate back to that school attachment and the importance of that. So go ahead. The goals of the Mind Matters program match the goals of our diversion program really well. Our youth need to learn to self-soothe in the moment when they're overwhelmed. They need to learn to observe their own emotions and their own actions. Sometimes it's hard. They don't really look at what they're doing. They're just kind of doing. They're just reacting. They need to strengthen the positive relationships that they have in their lives. They need to be able to recognize what are the positive relationships that they have with their family, with the school, with their teachers, with their friends. They need to learn to have compassion for themselves as well as others, and also learn self-care. And that's something that we teach our staff and other people that are in public health. We need to teach this self-care to our youth as well. Kind of like we can't care for someone else if we're not healthy ourselves. We want them to live with a purpose, a positive purpose, so that they complete school, they're making smart, healthy decisions, and they're becoming leaders in their communities. Go ahead. So I want to talk about some of my absolutely favorite lessons out of Mind Matters. And I must say, I do love them all, but some of them are just so much fun. And it's lesson 1 is just such a great way to start. So we do 1 lesson a week for 10 weeks in our diversion program. The week 1 starts off with self-soothing and the marshmallow test. So just think for a minute. Imagine that right now I just put the freshest, the yummiest, the softest marshmallow in front of you. It smells really good. You're super hungry. It's been a really long time since you've had a marshmallow, but I've told you you can't have it. You can't touch it for at least 10 minutes. Now, if you can make it through the 10 minutes without eating it, you'll get to have another one. So it's a big fluffy marshmallow. That could be really hard for me to ignore that marshmallow. But so this is one of the things we do with the youth. So they all get a big marshmallow in front of their desk and they get to watch a video that shows some younger children that get a marshmallow and they're told, if you don't eat this, you get a second one. You get to watch the kids and they squirm and they smell. Some of them pick it up. Some of them actually eat it. And then finally, those that made it through get to have another marshmallow. So then we talk about that afterwards, and we let them eat their marshmallow then if they want to. But it can be hard to wait. And so that's the real goal behind this is it's hard not to react to the smell of that marshmallow, to the hunger that you might be feeling. How do we soothe that? How do we calm that down so that we can make the decision to not eat the marshmallow, to wait so that we get the positive consequence of the second one? So it's fun. They remember it. It's exciting. So think back to a time when maybe you made a decision out of an emotion that you were feeling, be it sadness, excitement, even hunger, anything like that. Would it have been better had you stopped and thought for a few moments and processed that emotion before you made that decision? I can definitely think of a lot of decisions I've made like that. And especially like when I'm stressed and that Facebook ad pops up and there's the new cool purse that I know I really need. And so, it's 10 o'clock at night, you hit the buy it now. And then, the next day you're like, yeah, I really didn't need that. So our kids go through those same things on a regular basis. So it's a really important skill for our youth to learn that you have to stop and wait and process that emotion. So go ahead. Some other amazing tools that come from lesson 1, which is these coping skills, are really kind of focused around breathing, which is amazing because kids can do them in the heat of the moment, in the middle of class. Nobody's going to know that they're doing it other than them. So there's focused breathing that really focuses on your pattern of breathing, peripheral vision, which gets you to kind of focus on some things that are out here instead of that's right in front of you. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 scale, which is one of my absolute favorites, gets you focusing on the 5 senses. So essentially you sit, you're breathing, and you take a few seconds to notice 5 things that you can see. And you notice each one of those. And then you move on to the next. The next one is you notice 4 things that you can hear, 4 different sounds. And then 3 things that you can touch or feel, textures that you can feel, 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste. So you can have a youth that is just really in the moment of crisis, in the middle of class. They can stop what they're doing and do this for just a few seconds and come back, and it really refocuses their attention. So if it's that test that they didn't study for, they can't remember that answer, just doing this can help them calm down where they can reach that, and then they can answer the question. I absolutely love that skill. Coloring is another thing. They're given color pages and we can sit and color. I know for a lot of adults like to do that. I myself, I'm a doodler. So those things, these are all these self-soothing mechanisms and coping skills that our youth can do. And they're really easy, they're not expensive, and they can do them pretty much anywhere. Go ahead. So lesson 2, again, is really exciting and helpful for our students because this is where they discover emotions. The youth that we were using this with this last year were middle school aged youth, and they understand angry, happy, those kind of things, but they don't really recognize the nuance emotions that are out there. And I think especially with all of the screen time that our kids spend, where they're only seeing in 2 dimensions, they don't really see the 3 dimensions of the face to get all of the different facial expressions. They spend a lot of time texting and talking, so they're only getting the words, they're not getting that tone of voice. So having the opportunity to really talk and help them discover the emotions that they're feeling, the physical sensations that go along with those emotions that they're feeling, is really helpful to them, and can make a huge difference. So being able to explain that is just can really change their whole outlook on everything. So one of the tools that goes along with this is the body scan, where they actually get an opportunity to pay attention to each different area of their body and how it's reacting to a different stimulus or a different emotion. So they're able to communicate better with this. They can make better choices and decisions because they know, okay, am I making this decision out of anger or out of excitement? And it can really help them learn to keep their thoughts and understand the thoughts that they're having. So really good information on emotions for them. Go ahead. Lesson 4 is all about learning empathy and learning to listen. So think back to when you were a teenager. Were you a good listener? I know I was not. Sometimes that's still a skill I have a hard time with. So youth get to share stories and practice reflective listening and listening for an emotion that the other person is feeling during their story. So being an empathetic listener can keep a youth from bullying other kids, can help them to be better friends, which is really a great thing. And it's so fun to listen to them telling their stories to their peer. The peer is going to repeat back what they heard, and then they get to talk about how it felt. How did it feel for someone to actually listen to what you were saying? Because I think a lot of times they're talking to their friends talking to someone else, their friends texting, they're doing things just like I have a tendency to do. People are talking to me, I'm trying to multitask on my desk. This gives them the opportunity to learn to really focus on listening because they have to repeat back what they heard. So it really does increase that friendship bond with them. Then lesson 5 is about finding their support network. A lot of our youth kind of feel alone. They kind of feel isolated. And this really helps to build self-esteem. It shows them that they do have a support network, that they do have people in their lives. And it might be because I think we focus on, oh, do I have a friend or do I have a family member? But we can find people in all of these other contexts of life. So we do have family. It might be someone who's the helpers in our lives, who's our friends, who challenges us, who respects us, who has the same interests of us. And when we look at it that way, we can really pick and choose people to fill into this little worksheet that they get, and they can see, oh wow, I do have a good group of folks around me. Or it can say, you know what, I don't really have a whole lot of people that challenge me. I want to be challenged. So they can talk about who would that be? Is it going to be a teacher or a coach or, a family member? So that they can think about, I need to cultivate this relationship. So then a lot of the remaining lessons cover music and rhythm and physical movement, setting goals and being intentional, which really sets them up for success as a student, as a friend, and just for the future in general. Go ahead. So how did we start this diversion program? How do you start a diversion program where you're at? We provide programming in the schools, and we work really closely with a lot of our school resource officers. And in just having a discussion with our school resource officer, he was really frustrated with the amount of truancy that they were experiencing in the schools. It was just a really big issue. Kids didn't want to come to school. They didn't see us coming to school as being important. Um, and the majority of the kids that were not coming to school had more than 20 days that they had missed. And so for in Arizona, in our high schools here, when you go from middle school to high school, if you miss more than 10 days, even excused absences, you don't get credit for that class. So it can really delay a student in graduating. So we talked with him. We thought, man, what are some of the causes? We talked about this program, Mind Matters, that we teach in a lot of the schools, and he was really excited. So we set a meeting with the vice principal to talk about piloting a diversion program. So to keep the youth in school, to provide them with some skills to deal with the reasons why they were missing school, why they were vaping, why they were fighting, but what the real goal, to keep them in school so that they're not getting further back and they're not being labeled as a bad kid or a problem kid. The vice principal looked at the curriculum, agreed that, yeah, we need to keep our kids in school. This would be a much better fit than just suspending them. So they sent some letters out to the parents, let the parents know what was going to be going on. And actually, the school resource officer was at the point with some of these families that it was time to cite the parents for contributing to the delinquency into court, which we knew was really going to create a family conflict issue, because now you're talking about time off from work to go to court, possible fines. So it's just going to take that bad situation and make it even worse. So we were given the last hour of the day, which is their elective hour, to meet with the youth that were in the diversion program. And like I said, this was kind of their last opportunity to really turn things around before suspension or just expulsion became the norm for that. All of the youth completed the program. Everybody did. They absolutely loved it. They participated. They were actually kind of sad to see that we were over. Another way that we have gotten some of our diversions programs going is to working through juvenile probation. So this is working with those youth that have already had some sort of hiccup, and we're talking with the probation officers, and some of the kids were on their diversion because they were first-time offenders. Like, these kids need some skills. Just putting them into this and not giving them the skills to deal with some of the stress and some of the trauma and things like that that caused them to do these activities that were getting them in trouble. And they were super excited about this program specifically. So then with them, went to the administration of the school, said we'd like to be able to do this on school premises if we can. If you've got some time during the day that we can do it, great. We also did a couple of the schools, it was like an after school time activity. And so these kids that were first time offenders went through, and again, we had a really, really successful program with them. So that was a couple years ago that we started doing this. In fact, this last year, our middle school here in Gila County wrote our diversion program with Mind Matters program into their handbook, so that parents know coming in if your student's truant, if they're having issues, they're going to be forwarded into this diversion program, which is 10 weeks long, and get these skills that they need. And then we were also able to just offer the Mind Matters program as just in regular classes as well. And so we've just had great success. The kids are doing so much better. They actually really enjoy all of the different tools in there that they've learned, the breathing techniques. We've had them go home and teach their parents how to do that. It's just been such a great program. Less kids are being suspended. They're spending more time in school. They're being successful with their academics. They're passing their classes. They're moving on to the next grades. We're seeing less vaping, we're seeing less fighting. It has just made a big difference in our area. So we were just really excited to be able to bring this information to everyone, and hope that you can maybe approach your schools about doing diversion as opposed to suspensions as well, because it's just so much healthier for the kids. So any questions or thoughts? If you have a question, I think you can put it into the chat. Aaron, are you seeing anything, or? This is Julie.
I'm going to read the questions to you and then read them out to the audience.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay. Okay, so Celia had the question of, do you have any ideas on how to hold students accountable if suspension is not the right decision?
Okay.
Kind of covered it, but
okay, yeah. So any ideas on how to hold the youth accountable? And I think it was just, we let them know coming in that they had to complete this class, and if they did not complete the class, then it would go back to the school resource officer, and then suspension or the charges on their parents would be addressed. So I think that was kind of like the main thing, is just letting them know you have to complete this class, and then you need to toe the line after that. If you continue on with the behavior, it's going to go right back into the school resource officer's hand.
Oh, I actually was able to figure out my, I'm gonna hang up with Julie. So
hear you.
Okay, yeah. So as I often say, technology is great until it ain't. I was locked out of the control panel of everything. So thank you, Julie, for answering the phone. And I apologize to everyone about this, but somehow I was able to, and I think right now all you guys can see is my screen, but that's okay. So let's go on to some of these other questions. So Tracy had a question. She said, how often do you offer, is this something that you offer during the entire school year, or how often do you offer it? And can kids, and I'll add a follow-up to that, are kids able to come in halfway? Do you have them wait until the start of the next one? How does that work?
Yeah, we wanted to create as little barriers as possible. So it is offered year-round in school. They can enter at any time. So if it's week 5 and that's when they get referred to us, they join week 5 and they continue on, and then they'll come back and do weeks 1 through 4, and that would be considered completing. Of course, the best way to do the curriculum is always going to be week 1 through week 10, but we didn't want to have kids wait. A lot of our kids, especially if they're experiencing something right now, they need the help right now, not 5 weeks from now. So we left it open, and it worked out pretty well that way.
And then Lori is wondering, in terms of what age or grade levels have you guys found it to be successful with?
Middle school and high school is really well. So, like 12 and above, 12, 13 and above.
Yeah, and I would just echo that as well, in terms of that's kind of what the age span that the program has been written for. Now, with that said, I absolutely love it that the kids are going home and teaching it to their parents, because it's also been written in a way to that'd be relevant for adults. And speaking of that, have you had any thoughts about reaching out to the parents so that the skills can also be reinforced at home so that they can be learning the program as well?
We have, and that's the harder piece, getting parents to come to programming. Um, we have offered it to parents, and we've had one or two that have been interested, and we've had go through. But for the most part, that's the harder sell. So we're still working on that. The school is talking about, though, making it a requirement for parents to attend as well. And we would be more than happy for them to attend with their child, in like an after school setting. Again, we try really hard to meet everybody where they're at. If does it need to be an evening class, an after school class, even if it was a Saturday class, we'd be more than willing to do that. So we're not sure that the school is talking about making that a requirement though in this next year.
And then in terms of the kids, Tracy's also wondering, how do you manage the kids who are waiting for the next class series to start up?
Well, because we let them come in when it happens, so that we don't have to deal with that. Um, we had a lot of discussion back and forth with the school resource officer about that, and he's like, no, we can't have them wait, they need to come in. And
Right.
so we just have them come right in, and that way we don't have to have them sit there and wait.
And then Taisha said, I heard you say that the kids enjoyed the session, but did you face any adversity with it being the last class of the day, especially because it's very easy to slip out the door being the last class of the day?
We actually did. So we ended up adding a class earlier in the day, because especially those that are in sports and things like that have to leave. We made sure that, we wanted to hold it during school hours, so those that ride the bus still have the opportunity to ride the bus home. So we do, I think we made it available like lunch times. Um, and I think because I think they have like a staggered lunch. So if kids needed to make it up because they couldn't get to the last hour of the day, they could do that. But it was an elective, so it's again, it was that you have to attend this, or you're going to get suspended. So that was kind of like the push for them to really attend the class. And the kids are still there; they can still ride the bus home. So it made it a lot easier. But if kids missed, we offered makeup classes for them.
And then, let's see if I can get back to it. So Aubrey's also wondering, have you done this as a prevention tool for students in general and not just as a diversion program?
Yes, definitely. We teach Mind Matters in the schools here, actually across the state, as a prevention tool. So it's if you catch it during regular classes, that's great. But these kids, I think, had not gone through the regular classes at the school there, so we were able to provide it to them. But we definitely do offer it every semester in the schools that we're in.
And a follow-up question on that is, in terms of especially the school administration, what kind of feedback are you guys getting from the school administration, the teachers?
They love it. The teachers that sit in the classrooms while we're there just absolutely love it. We've been asked to teach some of the tools that, like teacher in services and things like that. Um, the administration, we haven't really experienced any pushback with this curriculum at all. They're so happy to have us there because they realize that stress is the biggest problem for a lot of these our kids. And so offering them, especially that we're offering them tools that they can use through this program. Some curriculums just sit and they give you information and teach you stuff, but when you can sit and actually practice these coping skills with these kids, they're building up the essential, what I call muscle memory, to be able to use it when they need it. It's just one of the best things I've ever seen. And all the adults that end up seeing it will tell you that they use the skills now too. So it really is helpful, and we've really seen, um, a decrease in volume in the classrooms is what the teachers are telling us.
Yeah, I'm super excited to especially hear about the in-service for the teachers, because my heart goes out to the teachers. In terms, they have an incredibly difficult job to do, the amount of stress that they're under. And
Hmm.
so for you guys to be empowering them with these tools to help make their life easier,
Oh yeah.
and for the ability to, if they're all using the same tools, have the same kind of reference in terms of language, that they're able to remind the students, hey, right now might be a good time for us to all do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And
Yep.
so, no, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Shanice is wondering, how long have you guys been teaching in the schools? And then, are there any plans to expand into other states, other school districts? Um, yeah, what are your plans, and how long have you guys been refining
Yeah,
this
well,
process in
we've
schools?
been teaching this program for at least, I want to say 5 or 6 years, I think, in schools across Arizona. So we're in all the rural locations, essentially in Arizona. We're always looking to expand to new school districts here in Arizona. Um, and again, it just depends on funding and what grants that we have at the moment. Um, and I just, anyone across the nation that has the ability to look at this curriculum and provide it to the schools, man, I would say go and do it, because it does make such a difference. It is one of the best curriculums I've seen out there. We've had other schools that have reached out and said, hey, can you come and do some programming for us? And then of course we will go there if we have the staff and the ability to. So right now, we're just continuing on. I think, let's see, there's only 15 counties in Arizona, really big counties, and we are providing this program in, I think, 13 of them.
Wow. So actually, a couple follow-up questions on that. So funding obviously is an issue for everyone. What types of funding have the schools been able to tap into, that you've been able to tap into, in order to provide this program to the young
Yeah,
people in
it's
Arizona?
not been funded through the schools in any way. It's all funded through AZYP. We have some funding through the governor's office of youth, faith, and family that is under trauma-informed substance abuse prevention. We've got some funding through some of our we have community coalitions across the state through some of the community grants. Like we have a drug-free communities grant that allows us to provide funding with that. I think we've had some parents commission grants. So some of it's state, some of it's federal, but everything has been through our nonprofit, not through the schools as of yet.
And then in terms of what are the light bulb phrases, things that you can talk to get into schools, to maybe even possibly go to the state legislature and to help them to make that connection so that the light bulb goes off? We really need to be funding this because it prevents so many problems downstream. How do you guys explain it? Have help the administration to understand you need to help us out, help us to get in to be able to provide this. Are there any things that you have found to be successful?
Yeah, I think it's definitely lowers the number of youth that are using substances. It's going to make your youth healthier, better students, better able to cope with life in general, not just school life, but home life. And again, they're going to be present in school, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. A lot of our schools have been struggling with their grade level of school. And so if you have students that are better suited to deal with the issues that they're dealing with, they're going to do better in school, which is going to make your school do better as a whole. And that it is going to, I mean, just, and I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but lower that volume in the school. It's going to lessen the amount of bullying. It's going to lessen the amount of fighting. And again, that substance use, I think vaping is a problem for a lot of schools across the nation. School resource officers, it's going to allow them to spend more time doing their law-related education instead of doing interdiction type things. And it's just going to possibly provide them with new ways to fund. It's going to bring more people and families into their schools because their schools are functioning so much better. And it's just, you're going to see such a change in the youth, you know, and it probably more kids are going to be attending other school related things, sports, academic things like that, increasing that attachment, and that's just going to flow out into the community. You really need to have community backing a lot of times, especially in the rural areas. So if you've got those community coalitions or groups that are in your area, you know, bring this to them, and they should be just so excited to back you in going into the schools and bringing this programming in.
Yeah, a number of the, I mean, you've definitely hit on the number of the hot button issues that a lot of people are struggling with. And to be able to come with a proven solution is huge. That this is, we've tried it out in Arizona. It has worked in Arizona. It has had a positive impact on all of the following areas. I mean, that's amazing. That's awesome. Sharon is also wondering, how do you manage behavioral issues during the sessions? Because that just happens sometimes. So what have you found to be successful in handling, especially being the end of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, what have you found to be successful?
So we start off with group norms, and we get the youth involved in those. And of course, you know, it starts off with no cell phones, and just asking them, you know, one person talk at a time, you know, just your regular classroom norms. Once everybody's gotten those, we have everybody come up and sign the paper that they're on, and we keep that there each week kind of as a reminder that this is what we're doing. If we do have someone that's just they're having a bad day, they're being disruptive, you know, we try and have, if we can, we try and have two staff available where we can have a staff, you know, be like, hey, you know, let's talk about this for a minute, maybe take them outside or something, and or offer them, you know, hey, do you just need a coloring page today? And you can just sit and listen. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. And I think that's always that's a really important thing. It is like, you do not have to participate if you don't want to, but if you're not feeling it, we would appreciate it if you would just, you know, let everyone else in the room participate, because you never know what's happening in that youth life right now. We could possibly trigger them with something that we say. So we try and be as cognizant of that as well. If you can have like a back corner of the room that day one, you're like, okay, if you need a minute, feel free to go back and sit back here, and you can have some color pages for them, tell them to put their earpods in and listen to some music or something. Encourage them to use that self-soothing that we've already learned or that we're going to get to learn. But just make them realize, okay, yeah, your diversion, you've been told to be here. But still, if you're if you're just not feeling it today, we all have those days. We just ask that you let everyone else participate as they want to as well.
And then one more follow-up question from me. In terms of the students, do you have any favorite stories that you've heard from the students in terms of what they thought about the program or the tools that they've
We
learned?
have had kids come up and thank us along the lines of, you saved me. You have changed my thoughts. Yeah. Kids that felt no hope, which we know can lead to suicidal ideations and things like that, and that have told us that we have we have changed
Yeah.
their outlook on life with this. We have given them the tools to be able to see past the darkness that they're experiencing, which it just blows me away. And I think a big part of that is because we're giving them the power to make the change themselves, that they can find the light inside themselves in times when they didn't know it was there. And because it's not only the curriculum, but it's the staff as well. These youth, when you teach something like this to them, they see they do have a caring adult in their life, someone that they can depend on, that's going to be there every week, that's going to listen to them. And that's what, and we've also seen these kids that come in with their head down and they're not talking, they're not doing anything, just turn into this chatty Cathy and sharing experiences and talking about how their day is going. And seeing you in the hallway, hey, and wanting to talk to you there. So you really can see a full change. But for some kids, it has actually been life-saving.
Is inspiring. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of ikigai, that Japanese concept of what gets you out of bed, hearing something like that, that would get me out of bed so that I could get into the schools to help make more of an impact like that on young people's lives. Julie had an interesting question, and that is, so obviously in the curriculum, it doesn't specifically address anything about vaping. So what are your, what's your theory behind why teaching these skills end up having that spillover effect and helps the kids with decreasing vaping, at least decreasing vaping in school that you guys have seen?
So a lot of the kids are turning to vaping to deal with stress. That's what they think is going to fix the problem. So by giving them healthy alternatives to that activity can help them decrease that a little bit. We do also, the kids that are referred for vaping, we do have a second program through the American Lung Association. I think it's, oh, the name of it just escaped me, but that we offer to them. I think it's like 6 little sessions that we've had really good success with helping them quit. But this really does offer healthy alternatives to dealing with that stress.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, well, and because when you do have a healthy alternative, it is significantly easier to stop the vaping. And then another follow-up question is, has the schools or state legislature or the county health department, is anybody thinking about doing kind of a more formal evaluation to show some hard data in terms of the impact that it is having? I mean, obviously you guys are seeing it, but in terms of the truancy, the vaping, the suicidal ideation, is there anything in the works as far as doing something more formal in terms of an evaluation?
Not that I'm aware of. We were trying to approach one of our legislators. Um, just the way that they want to be approached is not from a nonprofit. They want to be approached by another governmental agency. So like they want the schools to approach them first to request different things. And again, it's so hard to get a bunch of school districts together to take the time to try and approach that legislature. And there's I think some fear with doing that a little bit as well. I would love to have a more formal process. We have not been able to put that together yet. It doesn't mean it won't happen, but we just haven't been able to do that as of yet.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the states are getting they're starting to get some of that opioid settlement money. So maybe, hopefully, that's something that can be tapped into, either to fund this program on a much broader level or to also tap into some evaluation. So
Yeah,
I'll have to see what I can do on my end to help make that happen, because it definitely helps grease the wheels when you're able to also bring in that formal evaluation as well. Well, let me see if there's any other questions that slipped in. Oh, there actually was. Here's another question. Have you partnered with CPS to have them become part of to have this become part of the case plans? So Child Protective Services, have you guys reached out to Child Protective Services to
We have not. We do have another grant that we try and work with them on. So that is something that's actually a really good idea. So we can definitely try that, but we have not as of yet.
Oh, great idea, Aubrey. Well, I just want to thank you, Julie. I mean, you've done a phenomenal job, incredibly inspiring. That very much has helped me to catch the vision on how we need to continue to help get this into the other states and around the, well, honestly, around the world as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to share this, and I'm sure a number of people will be inspired and they may have some follow-up questions. So if you do have follow-up questions that we didn't have time to get to, I'm just starting to see some thank yous coming in. We will be able to follow up with anybody afterwards. In terms of this webinar, we are recording this webinar and it should be available in about the next 3 days. And if you have any questions, you can email us at relationshipskills@dibblelinstitute.org. And every month we try to do a second Wednesday webinar, and we have one that is coming in July, and the details are coming soon. So we're hoping to post those details within the next week. I just want to thank you on the behalf of all of Dibble for taking some time out of your busy day and for everything that you're doing to help young people with everything that they're struggling with these days. And so with that, I think we will close out this webinar. So thanks for attending.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.